Hi everyone, I'm Lucas Mack and welcome to another episode of the Golden Rule Revolution, where inspiration and purpose come from treating people like people and nothing less. Brothers and sisters, I want to make one thing very clear. I love humanity. I love the beauty of humanity. I love people. I love life. And I love when we as human beings can come together and inspire and lift one another up. So much of what is happening right now, the rhetoric in the world, is one of confusion, and it's also deriding humanity. It's also stripping away the value of our humanity. I hear about population control, the vaccines, politics, people hate Trump, people love Trump. What is happening? And regardless of even answers to that, how are you actually doing? How is your heart? How is your mind? Is your mind clear? Are you able to see what's actually happening? Is your heart soft, or is it full of anger and rage? Have you swallowed media narrative to become your own narrative out of your mouth when you really don't know the first person sources or your own experiences of the events that have been reported? There is a great awakening happening all over the planet. The world is waking up. Human beings are waking up. My question is, are you waking up? And in the awakening, something is also taking place. The duality that we have lived in for so long, the polarities that we have accepted as our norm, are being brought to the light. Democrats hate Republicans, Republicans hate Democrats. These political polarities, which are lies, they are not truths. Look, no one is worried about social issues when we're all locked down. You're just worried about what you can have to survive. Enough food, shelter, water, comfort, connection. We're getting to see what really matters. Human beings connecting with one another, truly asking how each other are doing, and also questioning what is really taking place right now. If you listen to the mainstream media, Donald Trump is the enemy. But perhaps the enemy is anyone who divides us, anyone who forces a narrative of us versus them, me versus you, left versus right, gay versus straight, black versus white, whatever the polarity is. Perhaps, my brothers and sisters, I would encourage you to look at those who push a divisive narrative as being the real enemy, and the enemy of what? The enemy of humanity, coming together in love, walking and speaking forth in inspiration and purpose and hope, rather than creating caustic confusion and derision. And sadly, when these polarities do come to the light, if both proclaim to be true, but both are opposite ends of the spectrum, both cannot be true. And if I am wrong, I am saying to you, as I've said to myself and my close inner circle, I am willing to admit I am wrong. I seek humility. I seek humanity's unity. However, do you have the humility? You might be right. And even if you're right, who cares? Do you have the humility to admit if you were wrong? I want to read something that Abraham Lincoln said. It was an address to the Sanitary Fair in Baltimore, April 18th, 1864. This is such a profound saying, and I want you to listen to this, the shepherd drives the wolf from the sheep's throat, for which the sheep thanks the shepherd as a liberator, while the wolf denounces him for the same act as the destroyer of liberty, especially as the sheep was a black one, obviously referring to slavery back then. Plainly, the sheep and the wolf are not agreed upon a definition of the word liberty, and precisely the same difference prevails today among us human creatures, even in the North, and all professing to love liberty. Hence, we behold the processes by which thousands are daily passing from under the yoke of bondage, hailed by some as the advance of liberty, and bewailed by others as the destruction of all liberty. Let me just read that first sentence again. The shepherd drives the wolf from the sheep's throat, for which the sheep thank the shepherd as a liberator, while the wolf denounces him for the same act as the destroyer of liberty. When two opposing sides come to the forefront and are seen for such, both cannot be right at the same time. And I would rather live in a world where those who seek to destroy humankind, humanity, our unity, and do not profess a message of love and hope and inspiration and purpose and goodness are, in a way, kept from influencing the greater good of humanity, even though they profess the greater good of humanity. If humanity has to suffer, that is not good. That does not mean that suffering is wrong, but in the context of those who profess the betterment of humanity but create suffering in humanity, it's unnecessary suffering. And we don't need to suffer any longer. What we need in this world are people to step forth in love and confidence and truth and humility and goodness and light, and to lift each other up. The Bible says perfect love casts out fear. That's why I use these words so often, because light and love are synonyms. Light casts out all darkness. Darkness exists in the absence of light. It is not a counterforce to light. Just as fear exists in the absence of love, it is not a counterforce to love. So all this fear rhetoric that is getting spewed forth right now on social media, on mainstream media, on media, is not coming from a place of love, because it pushes fear. And fear creates revenue dollars for media. And even in a non-nefarious way, we put so much trust in the mainstream media that when you look at your phone and it shows you the weather forecast, you just trust that that is going to be what it is. That's how much you are putting your trust in what the media tells you. I just want you to be aware how easily we can fall asleep and trust this narrative. But the reality is this: if you want a better world, if you want more love in this world, then you have to be loving. If you want more light in this world, then you have to be light. You have to bring forth light. One of the greatest things that I have overcome in the past 6 months is people pleasing. And I would rather sleep securely in my own body, knowing that I stood for what I believed in, than to cave for what I truly believe in and have the love of the world. It's not the quantity, it's the quality. And instead of going a mile wide and an inch deep, it's time that we consider what we believe in, what we think about, what we talk about in our social circles, in our family structures, on our social media posts. Are we going a mile deep and an inch wide? Or are we going a mile wide and an inch deep? The difference is, when you go a mile deep and an inch wide, you can articulate fully because you have studied, you have read, you have thought through, you have spent the time to really get down into the weeds, so that when you open that inch wide gap, you can articulate in confidence. And then you widen the inch and an inch and an inch, and you widen your ability to speak. But when you go a mile wide and an inch deep, when someone drills down, there's nothing there. That's really what the media is. I was a journalist for a very long time in TV. I was a reporter at ABC affiliate, at a Fox affiliate, at an NBC affiliate. They are mile wide, inch deeps. And it's time for you as a human being, to really take the time and read and study. Not just online, go find books, read. I'll never forget when I was in college, my friend and I were doing so much research on our own. And we got 2 books out on Constantine, the emperor of Rome, at one time. And one book was written in the 1920s and another book was written in the 1830s, both biographies on Constantine. The 1830s book was written by a German historian. The 1920s book was written by an American historian. We read both of these biographies, and it was like I was reading about 2 separate men. They were not the same men. The one from Germany talked about Constantine in a completely different light, and it wasn't a knock on him. It's just the facts that he laid out of his life were completely different than the facts laid out by the 1920s historian from the United States. That was the first time I realized, just because I read one source of information, if I don't have multiple sources of information to create context, then that content that I read can be very dangerous. And quite frankly, I don't know if the 1920s or the 1830s biographer was right, but they were different. They were talking about 2 different men, even though they were talking about the same man. So this goes for you and me and every single person. Get context to the content that you read. I said many years ago when I wrote in my book, I have a book out. If you go to Amazon, you can find it. It's no longer in print, but you can find used copies, or you can reach out to me. And the book is called Everyone Has a Plan Until They Get Punched in the Face: How to Develop Your Story and Achieve Your Dreams. And in the book, I write, content without context is a very dangerous thing. Context, my brothers and sisters, not just content. The media is very good at giving you content, but you must do the job of taking a step back and realizing there is context. That's why I started this podcast with the Abraham Lincoln quote. If you just listen to the wolf, you think the shepherd is the enemy of liberty. But if you listen to the sheep, you hear that the shepherd is the liberator of liberty, the defender of life. And then you have to look at sheep and wolves in that analogy. Who wants to live and who is trying to take away someone's life? That's it. Context. Incredibly important. Incredibly important, brothers and sisters. He passed away a couple years ago, but we had a family friend who survived the Holocaust, and he was in Auschwitz. And he showed me, I've talked about this before on the podcast, but I want to bring it up again. He showed me the tattoo numbers on his wrists, and he told me something I will never forget. He said, Lucas, when you reduce someone to mere numbers, you have erased their humanity. They cease to be a human being with memories and personality and eye color and hair color and thoughts. They are just digits, binary code. And some may think that that is okay. However, in context, I want you to look at, is that a sheep or wolf's narrative? The sheep want to live. And sheep isn't a derogatory term. It's not that we are prey. I'm not a prey. You're not a prey. But when we check out and abdicate our own responsibility and our own ability to look and search and seek context and stay close to the shepherd, we can very easily become susceptible to those who want to eat the sheep. That's why, my brothers and sisters, and you are my brothers and sisters, that is why getting the hurt and pain and trauma out of yourself is so important. That is why healing is so important. So you don't have a filtered view over the events of the world, that you can really think clearly right now and listen. Listen to what brings peace. Listen to what brings joy and vision and purpose and unity. Even though people profess unity, if what they profess in action causes division, causes a reduction of humanity, causes you to be less you, then are they really promoting the fullness of you? Brothers and sisters, I'm so honored that you listen to this podcast. This podcast is listened worldwide, and I'm committed to speaking truth, love, light, and hope for all of humanity. I happen to live in the United States of America, a country which I love, which has done more good for the world than any country on the planet. And yet, I don't see me as any different than you in wherever country you live in. We are human beings that breathe breath, and that breath is what unites us. And I want to stand for your breath, and I'm asking you to stand for my breath. And when we stand for each other's breaths, we can breathe more deeply. Look at the coronavirus. It's attacking breath. The Bible says that God breathed into man and man became a living soul. The word soul in Hebrew is neshama, which means breath of God. I've talked about on this podcast with the Gordana, I can tell when something is true or not by how I can breathe. I check in with my body. Is it true? I can breathe more deeply. If it's not true, then it constricts my breath. That's how you know if something's true or not. It's time that we stand up for each other and love each other. Love each other. I will remind you the golden rule, which is the Golden Rule Revolution podcast, which we're based off. It's that do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself, and that which you deem hateful, do not do unto another. That checkpoint of doing and not doing is so important. It's not just doing, it's also not doing. This is the golden rule. To love people, to love God, to love the source of love, to love the source of life, to love the source of light. You can be a dogmatic evolutionary proponent. Awesome, good, great, and the origin of all that is beyond all that is before all that was and is and will be. Love that. Love the origin. Love the origin. You can be a Big Bang proponent. Cool. And what was prior to, you get to love because you exist from that. And if you exist from that, then be a proponent of that origin and love the origin of your life. Religion has become just like politics, another form of control. But liberty is that you and I, as human beings walking this planet in the ecosystem of this planet, being part of the beauty of this planet, get to take our deep breaths and stand for each other to say, whatsoever is not of love shall not be. And whatsoever creates division shall not be. And whatsoever creates confusion shall not be, because light brings truth forth, and truth makes us free. Free to do what? To bring more truth so that your liberty can result in someone else's liberty. The world is hungering right now, not for leaders, but for all people to stand in love and to say, if you take away my breath, then all breath gets taken away. Therefore, I will stand for all breath. And in that, I will continue to breathe. Brothers and sisters, thank you so much for listening. My name is Lucas Mack. This is the Golden Rule Revolution. I hope you're blessed. I hope you're encouraged. I hope that this makes you think. Remember, content without context is a very dangerous thing. Get the context to all content, and you'll be okay. A mile deep, my brothers and sisters, an inch wide, and then expand from there. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast, download it, share it, get more people to listen. And if you feel so inclined to ask for a 5-star review, I ask for you to like and rate this podcast positively so more people can listen around the world. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube for more content. I'm with you, my brothers and sisters. We're in this together. My name's Lucas Mack. This is the Golden Rule Revolution, where inspiration and purpose come from treating people like people and nothing less. I'll talk to you on the next episode.